All right, so Bitcoin. It's well, it's everywhere these days, right? Not just for like the tech people anymore.
It's true. And what we're seeing now, it's not just about, the price going up and down. This is different.
Yeah.
This feels different, this deep dive. We're going to look at how the whole idea of Bitcoin is changing, like
Right.
changing for the people who, usually are very careful with their money.
Yeah, exactly. Like remember Dave Ramsey, get out of debt, invest carefully, all
Yeah,
that.
right.
So solid. But even some of like his own folks, they're starting to talk about Bitcoin.
Yeah, and that's where this article we're looking at today gets really interesting. It talks about this guy, George Camel. He's actually on the Dave Ramsey network.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and get this, he recently said that maybe, just maybe, Bitcoin could be part of a balanced portfolio.
Whoa, okay. Hold on. So before like everyone freaks out. He's not saying go all in on Bitcoin, right?
No, no.
Still got to be careful, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But he's got this idea. He calls it the 1% rule.
Okay.
So like maybe you put 1%, just 1% of what all your stuff is worth into Bitcoin.
Yeah. And he didn't just pull that number out of thin air. He looked at how much Bitcoin's price has gone up and down, its volatility. And 1%, it's a way to, test it out without risking too much.
Okay, that makes sense. But like why now? What's changed? Why are even the careful money people starting to talk about this?
So the article, it points to three big things. First one, Bitcoin's limited supply. You can't just print more of it like, dollars or euros.
Right.
There's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoins.
Yeah.
That's it. And that really matters to people who are worried about inflation. Their money becoming worth less.
So it's kind of like digital gold then.
Yeah. It's scarce. It's supposed to be.
Okay, I get that.
The second thing is there are more rules around Bitcoin now. Like, remember the early days? It was like the Wild West. Nobody knew what was going on, really.
Yeah, it seemed a little, I don't know, shady almost.
Right, and that scared a lot of people off. But now, governments around the world, they're starting to make rules about it. Clear guidelines. So it's becoming less risky.
So more guardrails, instead of just holding on for dear life.
Exactly. And the last thing, and this is big, is the possibility of Bitcoin ETFs, exchange-traded funds, yeah. It's a way to invest in something without, needing to understand all the complicated stuff.
So like ETFs are already pretty normal, right?
And that's already their mainstream.
So if Bitcoin gets its own ETF, does that mean more people would like actually use it?
Oh, yeah, it could be huge.
Yeah.
You wouldn't need to know anything about cryptocurrency exchanges or like digital wallets or any of that. You could just buy a Bitcoin ETF through your regular brokerage account, just like buying a sock.
Interesting.
Yeah. And that could really change things, like bringing Bitcoin to, everyone. But, and this is where it gets even more interesting, the article, it even talks about Bitcoin maybe being part of target date funds.
Okay, now you've lost me. Target date what now?
Yeah. So target date funds, those are like, when you start a new job and you have that 401k thing.
Right.
They're often the default option for investing your money.
Okay.
And it's supposed to be easy, hands off. You pick the fund that's closest to when you think you'll retire, and it like automatically changes your investments to be more, how do I say it, more careful as you get closer to that date.
Oh, right. But hold on, Bitcoin in that. It just seems like, didn't we just talk about how much it jumps up and down? Doesn't seem very careful.
Right, and that's the big question, isn't it? The article, it suggests that maybe just a tiny bit of Bitcoin in those funds, it could like potentially help them grow faster. But still, not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Diversification, right.
So like adding some spice to an otherwise, I don't know, boring meal.
Yeah.
Exactly, little kick. But yeah, too much, and it might not be so good. Especially if you're, close to retirement and not looking for any surprises.
For sure.
And this is where some people get a little worried. They say putting Bitcoin in those target date funds without specifically asking the people who are invested.
Yeah.
That's kind of irresponsible, they say. Because those funds are usually seen as pretty safe, long-term things. Throwing Bitcoin in there, it could be a gamble.
Yeah.
Especially for people who are like almost retired.
Yeah, that'd be like, I don't know, finding a hot pepper in your grandma's chicken noodle soup.
Perfect analogy.
But like, it's a surprise for sure. Some people might like it, but others might not be so happy, especially if they didn't ask for it.
And it brings up a really important point. Like with Bitcoin in these funds, who gets to decide how much risk is okay?
Yeah, that's a good point. And we should probably remind everyone listening, we are not financial advisors or anything. So do your research, people. Make sure you understand what you're getting into.
Exactly. Always, always. But even with all that, what's so fascinating to me is this whole conversation, it shows just how much things have changed around Bitcoin. It's not just for like the tech people anymore, clearly.
Definitely not. It's like it's gone mainstream.
Totally.
Hmm.
We're seeing it everywhere, even in these, more traditional financial spaces. And that's a big deal. It makes you wonder, what does it all mean? Like for us, for everyday people, that's what I want to know.
So we went from like Bitcoin being this weird thing nobody understood to now maybe it's in our retirement accounts. It's kind of wild, really.
It really is. And that's exactly why we're talking about it. It's not about, telling anyone to go buy Bitcoin. It's about like opening our minds to this stuff,
Yeah.
right? Asking the right questions.
Because we can't just like ignore it anymore, can we? Especially if it's going to be like everywhere.
Exactly. So, next time you're talking to a financial person, a financial advisor, whatever,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to bring it up. See what they say.
Right.
Like, how do they use Bitcoin, if they use it at all? What do they think about it, for building a good mix of investments? It's about, like you said, understanding, not necessarily running out and buying a Bitcoin.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The more you know, the better.
Right.
Right.
Always. And it's not even just about Bitcoin, honestly. This whole thing, it's like technology changing how money works. It's bigger than Bitcoin.
Whoa. So like this is just the beginning.
Maybe. Who knows? But things are changing fast.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Okay, so big picture then. Even if Bitcoin isn't in my 401k tomorrow, and even if I don't buy any, this whole shift, it's a sign of things to come, right?
Exactly. Pay attention. Right. Keep learning.
Okay, I can do that. So to wrap things up for today, here's something to think about, okay? We talked about those target date funds, right? The ones that maybe will have a little Bitcoin in them. What if you could choose? Like you could say, okay, I'm cool with a tiny bit of my retirement going into Bitcoin. Would you do it? Should you do it? I don't know. But it's interesting to think about, right? It's like the future of money is right here, right now. And that's it for our deep dive today. Thanks for listening, everybody.